All right, hello and welcome back to my channel. I'm so glad you clicked on this face right here. Um, I hope you're doing really, really well. I know these last few weeks have been challenging for so many people for so many different reasons, and I really hope that you are able to somehow find the positive side to all this. I know that it's really hard, and especially for us CFers, or if you had a transplant or a disabled, I have to say that the hardest thing for me is just the anxiety that I've gotten just from leaving my home. I find it really hard to go to even like the grocery store. And I've actually resorted to ordering my groceries online, and I've run into so many problems with that. I ordered from Vaughn's, and they charged my credit card online, even though it specifically online said that they would not charge the credit card, that they just needed the credit card to hold it for me. And then I also placed a huge order on Walmart, and Walmart is so backed up that the order was supposed to be ready 3 hours ago, and it's still not ready. And I tried calling them. I'd been calling them for like an hour before they closed, and they just kept hanging up on me. The call would not go through, and they're closed now. So luckily, I did not put a credit card online, so they did not charge me for my order just in case it's been lost or misplaced for some reason. But it has been such a crazy few days just trying to get basic needs, just groceries and, things like that. So if I can give you any kind of advice or recommendation, it's to make sure that if you are going to order online, if you don't want to go into the store, if you don't want to risk getting sick, make sure you order several days in advance, because I think that grocery stores, all other stores are usually just closed at this point. But I think grocery stores are so backed up that they really do need a few extra days just to get everything in order and to get your grocery order to you. So make sure that you are giving them plenty of time to fulfill your order, whether you're getting it delivered to your home or picking it up. I also wanted to let you know that I accidentally found out yesterday that all Apple TV Plus shows are free to watch until May 1st. And so that actually includes some epics as well as some HBO shows. So if you've been wanting to check out the Apple TV Plus app, to check out some of their programming, this is a really good time to do that, and it is absolutely free until May 1st, so it gives you a couple weeks to catch up on those shows that people have been watching. Last night I watched the first episode of Dickenson. It's about the life of Emily Dickinson, the famous poet, and I have to say the artistic liberties that were taken with that show were at first very off-putting to me, but then after I finished watching the episode, I found myself kind of intrigued and almost appreciating it. It was really weird to me because I felt like the way that it was filmed, as well as the dialogue and the acting, I didn't feel like it really jived with that part of our history necessarily. I felt like they kind of did something that Hallmark Channel has done with one of my favorite shows called When Calls the Heart. I feel like they really modernized the early 1900s in that show, and I was quite off-put by it, because if you watch the first season of When Calls the Heart, it is absolutely set in the early 1900s. But then in the following season and then the seasons thereafter, it almost looks like they are kind of jumping decades really quickly, and I wasn't a big fan of that, but I had by that time become a big fan of the show and the characters, and I was just too invested at that point to stop watching. So I feel like Dickenson kind of did that. And they also, as far as the way that they portray the characters in the show, I'm not sure if it's historically accurate or if they're taking real artistic liberties, but there's a very strong attitude in the show that, like I said, at first it was really off-putting to me, but after I finished the episode and I was getting ready for bed, I kind of found it kind of interesting. I don't know. You'll have to let me know if you end up watching Apple TV Plus, and it's available on any of their devices. So if you have an iPhone or an iPad or a MacBook or an Apple TV device, like the actual little box thing, you can watch Apple TV Plus. So if you end up watching Dickenson, Emily Dickenson, you'll have to let me know down in the comments what you thought of the first episode. I think I'm going to be watching the second episode tonight. At first, I wasn't sure if I wanted to keep watching, but you know what? I think I am intrigued enough to watch it. And it's kind of something fun to do in the evenings. And as a writer, I found a lot of different things that I could relate to with her. In the show, she has this obsession with death, which at first is really weird. But then I thought, I don't have an obsession with death, but I'm very much aware of my mortality. And I don't know if that's a CF thing or a transplant thing, or just because, I've been in the hospital a lot in my life, or if it's just because I've been so exposed to life and death situations throughout my life, whether they were my own or other people who are close to me. And of course, I have recently lost my grandparents in the last few years, so I've definitely been more aware of life and death, but I found it interesting that she was obsessed with death, and the fact that I often do think about life and death, particularly my own life and death, and I wonder, what's on the other side? Is what we heard true? Is what we think, imagine, feel, believe? How are all those things applicable to what really is? And maybe that's just my philosophical brain going on tangents, just to keep me awake in some nefarious way half the night. Because I am a night owl, nocturnal, and an insomniac. So it's not uncommon for me to still be awake in the wee hours of the morning and then sleep well into almost afternoon. But yeah, so you'll have to let me know what you think about Dickenson. And then if you're watching any of the other shows, I know that my fiance is really excited to watch For All Mankind. So if anyone is into space or going to the moon, I would love to hear what your thoughts are on that show as well. Anyway, as for what I've been doing, I have mostly been focusing on my writing. I am about 62,000 words into my novel, which is actually a women's fiction novel, and it's got a little bit of romance in it, but mostly it is about female friendships and family and some life and death too, actually. And so I'm very excited about that. I know that a lot of people have been creatively stunted or paralyzed due to this pandemic, and I am not. I don't know if it's because I draw inspiration from my own hardships oftentimes. I have always felt that I do my best work and my best writing when I am less than happy. That's not to say that you have to be miserable to be a good writer. This mostly just applies to me. It's a reflection on who I am and how I do my best work. When I am living in my perfect life, when I am perfectly happy and everything is perfectly great, I find it really hard to write because writing about something that's everything is fabulous is kind of boring. We read books and watch shows for the tension, for the challenges. And so the last thing we want is to see people who are, living their perfect life. And so it's a little bit easier for me to slip into that sort of mentality when my own life is not quite perfect. That is not to say that I like being miserable. Like I said, I definitely prefer to be perfectly happy. But I think that this pandemic has allowed me to kind of access my internal angst, my anxieties, my fears, and I'm able to channel that into my writing. I hope that if you are feeling anxious or sad or nervous or fearful about the current world situation, I hope that you can find a way to release that through some sort of artistic endeavor, whether it's writing or journaling, privately or publicly for that matter. You could start a blog, creating YouTube videos to talk about it, or even just like something like painting or gardening if you can. Anything like that would be really good for you to just express yourself. Holding it in is the worst thing you can do, I think. It's not good for your body, it's not good for your mind, and it's definitely not good for your soul. And if you don't believe in a soul, then just in your spiritual health. Let's put it that way. So that's kind of what I've been doing. I've definitely been staying in. I've been avoiding going out to stores and public places, and I've kind of embraced that. I think the last couple times I've talked on this channel, I was talking about how I was really unhappy not being able to go out. And, I've really kind of become a homebody. It's really weird because I have learned to make myself happy within my surroundings. And a big part of that is the things that I've been able to do here at home, including doing some organizing, some cleaning, some straightening up, and just making things a little bit different, but in a good way, if that makes any sense. Most of the time we go out to find joy, and I feel like this time the world is forcing us to look inside to find joy, if that makes any sense. And by inside, both internally, like within our hearts and minds, but also internally within our own homes, within our own rooms, within our own spaces. And the challenge is to do that with what you already have, because it's actually really hard to get new things. Even if you order them on Amazon, a lot of times the delivery is delayed. So I feel like this has been a challenge, and not necessarily a good one. Nobody likes challenges, nobody likes adversity, but I think that the more that we can kind of accept it and grow with it, as opposed to trying to constantly challenge it and oppose it, I think the easier it will be on us in the long run. Nobody knows how long this quarantine is going to last. I know that some cities and some states are asking to be liberated. I have my feelings about that, which I'm not going to share on this channel because they're my private and personal feelings, and that's, how do I put this? I'm not a very political person, and so I'm definitely not going to bring politics into this channel. That is definitely not what I'm trying to do at all. I just want all of us, particularly those of us who have CF, those of us who have had a transplant, whether it's a double lung or any other organ or non-organ transplant. I want for all of us to be able to live a healthy and happy life and enjoy the second chance that we have been given to do so. So with that said, I'm going to sign off on this video. I hope that you continue to do well. I hope that you stay healthy and safe, and I will see you again in the next video. Bye-bye now.